Just support. Be there with the individual. Compassion. I told you earlier, the Latin root word of compassion means to suffer. Of passion means to suffer. So compassion means to suffer with. That's what compassion is. It literally means just to suffer with that individual. Just be there with them. When I have my meltdowns, when I was a kid with my mom, or even, sometimes as an adult with my mom, she would just sit on the ground next to me. She wouldn't do anything. She'd just be there with me. That's her knocking on the door to my world. She's not trying to bring me out of my world and say, Russell, snap out of this. Stop doing that. She was knocking on the door to my world. And so those simple acts of compassion mean more almost than when people do try to help, right? Because for me personally, I know how to help myself, for the most part. I know what I need to do. So helping, I got that down. But what I need is support. I do need support. Don't tell me, I've been living with myself for 33 years. I think I might know what to do in this situation, right? Aaron, that is why I'm not going out kayaking, right? Because I know what I need to do. I do always need support, though. Right? And that support is just pure acceptance, compassion, and standing back and say, hey, if you need me, Russell, I'm right here when you do need me. Just let me know when. So some food for thought when it comes to helping versus supporting. And this is just stuff to think about, ponder. If your friend's appendix bursts, you call 911. That's what we call in America for the police. You wouldn't grab a steak knife and start getting to work because you know you're not the best person for the job, right? When we see something, someone going through something and they're in physical pain, if we know if we can help them or not. Oh my gosh, is this something I'm capable of doing? Yet when it comes to invisible suffering, for some reason we tend to think that we are the person for the job. Oh, this individual's emotionally distressed right now. I'm going to go help them. But it's not that easy. It's much more complex and nuanced than that. Again, Friedrich Nietzsche, he once said, isn't it a bit arrogant to assume that we are the one to help this person? Now again, this is food for thought. This isn't, don't take this literal. It's more of things to chew on and philosophical perspective. Just because we're the person there watching this person struggle, does that really mean we're the best person to handle the situation? Maybe it does. But, if we're working in a school, maybe some other faculty has a better relationship with the student. Maybe they're more comfortable with this individual. Let's delegate. I'm not going to help them just because they happen to be here. I can support them by getting the right person that knows how to help them. So it's very nuanced. It's very nuanced. Just because someone is suffering and needs help doesn't mean we're the best one for the job. Now, we all like helping. That's the great thing about humans. It feels good to help others. So we always want to help. But again, if we don't know how, we need to hold back. And again, that's what separates us from animals, is our intellect, our ability to reason, to think that even though I want to help, I'm going to use my intellect and my reason and say, you know what, I really want to help this individual. They shouldn't be in this much pain. I feel bad for them. But if I try to, I know somebody can help them better than I can in this situation. Using that reason, right? Not just reacting on animal instinct. They need help, I'm going to help them. But taking a step back, asking what am I not seeing here, and then contemplating using our reason to map what we can do moving forward to help this individual. Again, sometimes we just help because it makes us feel better. Just unconsciously. That's not a bad thing. Again, it's a good thing. But we need to use our reason to determine when to not, or when to help or not. And then again, you can rob the individual of the opportunity to self-discover. There's a lot of, my dad. I'll use my dad as an example. Again, I love him to death, but, growing up, he would always try to solve the problem for me, fix everything, kind of swoop in and save the day. Well, there's nothing to really fix. It's I'm not broken. And again, if we always try to help somebody and we help them too much all the time, again, you can rob them the opportunity for self-discovery of what they're truly capable of overcoming. Again, it's a delicate dance. It's not, it's a very thin line, and it's not easy. But again, this is stuff to just chew on and keep in the back of your mind. And then one of my favorite quotes is, "The only thing I know is that I know nothing," by Socrates. They call him one of the wisest men to ever live, simply because he knew that he knew nothing. We need to be aware of our existential ignorance. We're all ignorant to some degree. Nobody will ever know everything. But let's be aware of that. But because when we are unaware of our ignorance, that can lead to arrogance. And arrogance is a real hindrance when it comes to learning about new perspectives and growth and accepting things for what they are instead of how they should be. The only thing I know is that I know nothing. And then again, if you're just like at your wit's end and you don't know what to do when it comes to helping a certain individual, you don't know if you should support them, if you do know how to help them, when to help them, you're just kind of grasping at straws, I have 4 magic words that always make me feel better. And those 4 magic words are, how can I help? Because when somebody asks me that, and I've had that, I travel a lot, I have a lot of meltdowns in airports. And there are a few times where a stranger will walk up to me and ask me, hey, it looks like you're going through a difficult time. How can I help? And those 4 words mean so much to me because, A, they are basically admitting they know that they don't know. They're saying, how can I help? Because I don't know. You tell me. So that is a good sign, that they are aware that they don't know how to help. That is a good sign. They're self-aware. The second thing it means is that they're knocking on the door to my world. How can I help? They're peeking through the window of my state of self saying like, hey, how can I help? I'm out here if you need me. Like, tell me what you need me to do. And the third thing is they're giving me some agency. They're giving me a sense of control. They're asking me what to do. They're not telling me what to do. They're asking me to tell them what to do. And that is empowering for me because, again, I know what I need. So those 4 magic words, sometimes when a stranger asks me that, sometimes if I do have the ability to respond with words in that moment, I will say to them, you just did. How can you help? You just did. Just by asking those 4 questions, those 4 words. Because now I know I can trust you if I actually know of something you can do to help me. So those 4 words always mean so much to me. So I'm going to wrap it up in a few minutes, and then I should have some time for questions? Okay. And I want to wrap it up talking about Epictetus. I'm kind of educated myself throughout the majority of my life, and I love philosophy. And Epictetus was an ancient Stoic philosopher from about 2,000 years ago. He was one of the founders, the reason that Stoicism became a lifelong practice of philosophy. And Epictetus, I like to call him the first self-advocate, because he had a disability. As you can see, he has a crutch. He could not walk in one of his legs. Epictetus has a fascinating story. He was born into slavery 2,000 years ago. And over the course of his life, he was beaten viciously by the individual who owned it. And he ultimately became unable to walk in one leg because of those beatings. He was ultimately then put on the trading block, and he was bought as a slave by one of his friends, thankfully, who then set him free. And once he was set free, he went on to become one of the most famous philosophers to ever walk the earth. It's fascinating. I mean, he's literally having his teaching said 2,000 years later in this room right now. And he once said that sickness is a hindrance to the body, but not to your ability to choose, unless that is your choice. Lameness is a hindrance to the leg, but not to your ability to choose. Say this to yourself with regard to everything that happens, then you will see such obstacles as hindrances to something else, but not to yourself. Autism is a hindrance to my brain at times. OCD is a hindrance to my functioning capabilities. But those are just parts of me. They're not Russell. It's not my spirit. I'm capable of amazing things. There are certain aspects of my life where I encounter great difficulty. But that does not make the totality of my life. And to always remember that. That just because you're struggling in one area, it's just that one area. You don't need to bleed it over into the totality of your life. So yeah, autism is a big hindrance, but it's just a hindrance in one very small aspect of my existence. Sometimes a bigger aspect, but it's never the totality of who I am. And in the end, again, I may have a disability, but I refuse to let my disability have me. It will grab me by the legs sometimes. I somehow always manage to shake free. But back in the day, my disability did very much have me firmly in its grasp. It really dictated my life. Now I like to think I'm living life on my terms. Again, I'm the one who has a disability. My disability doesn't have me. But again, it'll sneak up every now and then, just like it did when I started the speech. I was able to shake free a little bit. So yeah, I may have a disability, but I refuse to let my disability have me, because I know what that's like, to have me, to be completely debilitated by my disabilities. But once I found out my passion and my purpose, I was able to utilize my disabilities to achieve what I wanted to in life. And that's the beautiful thing about it, is that, yeah, autism can be a great source of pain and frustration and sadness at times, but it's also the reason life is so beautiful and rewarding. And you get so grateful for, again, those little things. And that's the beauty behind it. So I do want to mention I do have books out front if anybody is interested. Very raw, transparent insight into my life, a lot of poems. It is PG-13, but if anybody is interested, I'll be signing a few after during lunch. Just come and see me. But I just will open it up for a few minutes of questions now, and I want to thank you again for having me and for bearing with me while I got my bearings on stage, and I appreciate you all being here. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I saw your hand up, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Here, take this one, because I have the mic here.
Thank you.
Yep.
Russell, I have so many things to say to you. I have to say, really, you man, you do something to me. And I feel, I have an exhibition outside, and I'm responsible for that. To be very honest, I didn't read much about you. But I'm so grateful that I did come. Okay, I have a son who's 23 years old. He's autistic. At the beginning, I thought this was the end of my life. But in that journey, I realized he's the best thing that happened in my life.
Yeah.
And he doesn't need me. I need him to become a better person. He is my teacher, my educator, really the best thing in my life. So, and you basically put all my learning lesson that I got from my son into words here. So thank you so much. You really summed up so much of my learning lessons. I have a lot to say. Russell, I have time. How much? 2-3 minutes?
Yeah. And you can see me afterward, and we can talk one-on-one.
Okay. But really, thank you for coming.
You're very welcome.
And if I may say, you are not, I think one of the things that I learned from you today, that you have the capacity to look into yourself and verbalize it, verbalize your thoughts and emotions. And I think we as parents and those who work with kids with autism, we don't have this ability. And you are really helping us to see inside you. You are helping me to see inside myself. Lots of what you were saying really helped me to see my son, I think. And then just saying, I realized that helping, is doing something.
Yeah.
But it's shocking how you can read yourself and you can
No, thank you.
verbalize it. And it's so important for me as a mother. And I think for all of us here.
Thank you.
Please keep
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. It means a lot. It really does. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. If anyone has any questions for Mr. Russel, briefly.
I have a comment.
Mhm.
I am Professor Dr. Abdul Qadir. Mr. Russell, you are great by listening to what you have done during those years, and you gave hope for all the people here, and even for us. You gave hope that by yourself you can change yourself, and you have given a lesson through what you have done through your life. I think it is very rare to find some people who suffer from any kind of disability and then to start and go on and to come all this long way from America here to tell us about what to do for our future. I think this is a very good experience, very good exercise, very good lesson for all of us. Keep it up, keep it up, keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I think
It
we
means a
have
lot.
some questions in the back. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. My name is Basma. I have moderate to severe ADHD, and I am also a behavior analyst.
Okay.
One question I have, because when you said you've been diagnosed with, when you found out you were diagnosed with autism, you said you went through a downfall.
Mhm.
Is it because of the label that put you in a downfall that you felt like that's not me? Because when I got diagnosed as ADHD at age of 19,
Mhm.
and everything you said, what you went through, I went through as a kid.
Mhm.
With all the labels, I failed 2 times, I got repeated, I got kicked out of school. And there isn't a thing I have not done by the book. And ironically, I'm also now a behavior analyst. So when I got diagnosed as ADHD at 19 in England, it made sense to me. But you said, that struck me, you said, it put you in a downfall. So I don't understand, is it the label put you in a downfall that you felt that's not me? Or is it the fact that, I don't know, the other aspect?
Yeah, no, great question. And congratulations on where you are today with all your difficulties. I know it's not easy, so I just want you to remember that.
I'm shaking.
Hey, but you're doing it. That's it. Like, right? You're doing it. That's the important thing. But I think, at that age, at 12, I think I was too young to even comprehend what autism meant. When I said it really kind of made life more difficult, it was because of how society treated me because of the word autism, right? Because I wasn't now just that weird kid. Again, I was that weird autistic kid. And again, this was 21 years ago. So a lot of people it made things more confusing for them because they heard the word autism and they're like, well, what does that mean? Should I, it just kind of made people more awkward around me. And that in turn made me feel even more shunned by society. So luckily there's much more awareness about the word now, where I think if I was diagnosed now, I wouldn't have that experience. But back then, 21 years ago, yeah, there was much less awareness. So it was more friction I encountered with the outside world upon having that word attached to me.
It makes sense because I got diagnosed at 19.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was younger, maybe I would not understand what that was.
Yeah.
And I would think that means I'm not normal.
Yeah.
And so on. But at 19, and I was in university,
Mm-hmm.
college, and knowing that is quite, ironically, I was studying that as well.
Okay.
It made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
And maybe
Yeah.
throughout the years. And on top of it, because nobody could notice it, because on top of that, I had severe psoriasis, I was born with psoriasis.
Mm-hmm.
So they always thought it's my psoriasis, and struggling with physical and mental
Yeah.
things was a lot.
Yeah.
So where I had to reach myself, and I still have a lot of struggles, low self-esteem and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But it makes sense what you did, so that's why I was trying to understand
Mhm.
at 12 what puts you on the downfall.
Yeah.
So, but as you explained, if I had that diagnosis at a young age, I would have felt exactly what you did.
Yeah. Yeah.
So much.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate you sharing.
Yes, I'll come.
Hi.
Hello.
Nargis Kazironi, I'm a clinical psychologist and sister.
Okay.
I just really well done on the presentation. I found that the struggles that you went through in terms of isolation and loneliness, I think a lot of people can relate to that in so many different ways, even kids with emotion dysregulation or children of neglect or even adults as well. Something I wanted to ask in terms of when you mentioned about the state of yourself and the state of the world, and you learning and developing and navigating how to when to step into that world and when to remain into that state of self. And I'm sure as you've began that journey of self-discovery, you've found maybe certain cues, whether it's physical, emotional, or spiritual, to know when or to navigate when to actually be in the world, outside world, or to remain in your state of self.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to knowing what are your sort of cues or what are your sort of tells that tell you when to do either.
Great question. Great question. And I think I'm still very much on that journey. I think in my isolation, before I moved to LA about 2.5 years ago, I think I was getting the hang of it in my isolation in terms of being able to listen to my body, realize what I'm experiencing, if I have the capacity to do something productive today or do this or that, to go on that vacation with my sister. I think I was learning in that environment, but now that I am in LA and immersed in one of the largest cities in the world, it's getting a lot difficult to find my boundaries. Because again, my boundaries are invisible, right? You know, it's not like I oftentimes forget I have autism, to be honest. Like on a really good day, if I have 3 great days in a row, I don't look in the mirror and see autism, I look in the mirror and see Russell, right? But if I had a broken arm, I would be able to visually remember, oh, my arm's broken, maybe I shouldn't pick up that water. That's my limit, right? It's a visual reminder of my limit. With autism, I don't have that. So it is very nuanced and incredibly complex at times, but I think I'm learning the hard way through burnout, through just pushing myself too far, that I think I'm just falling back on self-love and self-care. I think I am, if I can, I will. If I can't, I won't. I wrote that to myself the other day. I was journaling. I said, if I can, I will. If I can't, I won't. I mean, I just can't. And to accept that and not beat myself up over not being able to do things that other people might want to do, or not being able to go to that social get-together because I've already had too much stimulation for the day. Even though I want to get there, it's probably not what is best for my nervous system at that point in time. I think I'm getting the hang of that. It's not easy to do, right? Because it gets in the way of what I want to do in life. And so in that regard, it is very much a delicate dance. But I think, again, just sitting with myself has been huge too, to not, just to sit with myself basically like I have done throughout the majority of my life, and listen to myself, and really ask deep down, like, I know I want to do this, but should I? Right? And that's tough, again, because I want to do a lot of things, but the should is tricky. So it's still very much a learning process for me, and I don't have any easy tangibles to give out right now, but I think it all goes down to, really silencing that inner critic and giving yourself a heck of a lot of love, because, again, this is a brutal world for everybody, and we're our own worst enemies at times too. So to just realize that, again, the only true failure lies in not trying, right? There's really no, other failure than to not try. If we try, it really doesn't matter the outcome as long as we're trying, and I'm trying to learn my limits right now.
So it's kind of like understanding yourself and what level, from 1 to 10, 10 being, let's say, overstimulated.
Yeah.
Let's say, at 7, this is where I need to remain in my state of self rather than going into the world.
Exactly. And it can be a double-edged sword, too, or a catch-22, because, there are times where I'm at a 5, and I think, well, if I go out and socialize, that might help me feel better, or it might overstimulate me. And sometimes I don't know, and it's just a roll of the dice as to how am I going to feel afterwards. And sometimes it does backfire, and sometimes it makes me feel much better. So again, it's a catch-22 at times, which can make it more difficult. But yeah, it very much is a gauging of, where am I? Am I a 3, a 5, a 7? And then what is this activity that I want to do? Is that going to pull it up, pull it down? And what are the odds? I mean, there's a lot of deliberate debate, that inner debate that goes on before I have to make a lot of these decisions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any more questions? May I ask a question?
Sure.
as well? So I think it's very important for all of us here, of course, part of the conference and everything is awareness, and awareness for people who don't necessarily have any autistic children, or but will just see them in the world around. Would you prefer, on a normal day, you're 100% there, would you prefer people dealing with you as autistic and being careful and being fully aware, or would you rather people treating you as a normal? I mean, would you feel offended if someone was extra careful regarding something, or would you actually like that?
It's a great question. And on the example you give, if I'm doing really well, I want people to treat me just as Russell, as a human, right? It's not. Again, it's interesting that a lot of the people that have helped me in these airports when I have meltdowns, they end up not knowing anything about autism. Like, they're just being a decent human. And I think, I don't want people to support me and let me know that they are there for me because I have autism. I want them to do that sincerely because they like me, right? And I think, there is that sense of sometimes, getting offended maybe a little bit when people are a little too cautious, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I don't get mad with it. I know their best intentions, but at the end of the day, I picture a world where we can just be more kind to everybody, more accepting of everybody, because it astounds me that, again, the one thing maybe all humans across this globe have in common is we're all going to struggle and suffer at some point in our life. Yet at the same time, we don't talk about it openly with anybody, right? So, like, we're all going through this thing. Now, we can share our insights too, but we just don't talk about it out loud. And I think if we did that more, we'd realize, even that person who looks like they're doing well or is smiling, they might be struggling really deep down inside. And so I need to be a little bit more kind today than I typically would. Just that gentle reminder that you never know what somebody's going through. I think that's my dream moving forward. And it's a dream, but in the meantime, on a good day, just treat me like Russell. But on a bad day, still treat me like Russell, but, give me a little bit more compassion maybe. You're welcome. All right. No, I guess I'll just thank you all for having me. It's just wonderful to be in your country. I've enjoyed it very much so far, and thank you again for providing me with the support I needed at the beginning of this speech, and the way I was struggling. That was very difficult for me, especially to struggle in front of everybody like that. So I just appreciate the compassion shared in this room, and definitely a very memorable experience for me. So thank you all.